What's going on, guys? This is Tom the E-Gamer 575 here, and I'm back with another quick update video for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre the game. Gun Media had a live stream. Without further ado, let's just get right into it.
First up, let's talk about the changes coming to the game. Obviously, this isn't every change coming to the game. We have over 150 fixes coming in our next patch. And you know what? To kind of quiet some what I'm sure is already happening in chat right now, this patch we're targeting February 6th for this patch.
Yeah.
Now, before we talk about the details of it, let's talk about that a little bit. Obviously, these patches, these are bigger patches. It's over 150 fixes. And
150.
yeah.
Yeah.
And now this can also slide, you know, and when I say slide, I mean a day or two front and back.
Right.
So when we say we're targeting February 6th, that means it could be February, well, I guess February 6th is a Tuesday, so it could be February 5th, could be February 7th.
Yeah.
We're not talking about sliding like a month.
Right.
But it's important to note, you know, we don't have this pinned down yet. This still has to go through cert, but that's what we're targeting. That's what we're on track for, and we're pretty confident in it. So with that being said, let's talk about the first thing that I think everybody's going to want to talk about. Well, actually, I'm saving the best for last here. We're going to talk about Danny toward the end of the show, end of the stream.
Yeah. I already see chat now is blowing up. Probably. I don't see chat, but I guarantee it's all right now going nerf,
Yeah.
nerf. Yeah. It's like we know. We'll get to that.
And the situation with Danny is there's a lot to that, so we're going to save that for the end of this segment. But let's talk about grappling, right? Close encounters. You get into a close encounter with a family member. If you're playing as victim, you get in a close encounter with a family member. Another family member walks up, and all they have to do is strike you once, and it goes straight into an execution.
Yeah. Not cool.
It's the kind of thing that, you know, has become kind of like part of the unofficial way to play. People see that as, well, if I see them in a close encounter, I just got to walk up and take a shot. So in this patch, we are changing it where it'll deal chip damage. So what that means is if a family member attacks you while you're in a close encounter with another family member, it will take damage away from your health. Keep in mind, if your health is low enough for you to go into that execution, it will still trigger the execution. It can still happen. But it will take chip damage if you're healed up and healthy and you're just in that close encounter. So, you know, gone will be you're winning the close encounter and you're in the process of winning it, and they, you know, come up and execute you and it's over.
Right.
I felt like that was pretty important.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Door trapping. What does that mean? Well, you guys, you know, in your infinite trollery have been locking poor LeatherFace in rooms.
Yeah.
And using the barge mechanic to prevent him from cutting the doors down. In this patch, we made a change where now LeatherFace can initiate door destruction, and latching and things like that can be done while barging is technically happening. You know, you're locked up in that animation to start barging. So LeatherFace can just cut the door down now. So that's done and away with. I felt like that was an important one to get out of the way here quick because, again, you know, nobody likes being trapped in the closet when trying to play Leatherface. So let's talk next about. Let's stick on our buddy Leatherface.
Okay.
Instant start. This was one that Wes brought up. You had some feelings on instant start, how it existed prior to this, if you wanted to.
Well, are we hearing from the community too that this is?
Yeah.
Well, I want to hear their take on like what you've read or what you've heard, that how they are feeling about what it used to be, or maybe some of the demands of like, I wish it did this instead.
Yeah.
And then I'll also kind of go into a little bit about.
Well, the main thing with instant start, you know, the reason this line item ended up in here, in you know, from the community, and in my experience, seeing what I see and what the community team pulls for us, you know, instant start didn't really feel all that like it moved the needle enough.
Yeah.
Because it's still not instant, right? There's still like a.
I mean, that was my number one beef with it. Is we're calling it instant start, yet it didn't feel instant. There was still a state change, and then the full animation plays out of him getting it started, and it felt like to me it was negating what that mechanic can do if you're trying to be sort of a stealth Leatherface. If you want to run chainsaw off and sneak up on people, then you should be able to hit insta start, and it fires the chainsaw pretty damn quickly. So the way that it got implemented wasn't what I thought. Didn't support the gameplay mechanic of being a stealthy Leatherface.
Well, now when you hit instant start, he'll pull that ripcord. That chainsaw starts. You know, there used to be this kind of like animation where he goes and then back into ready to go. All of that has been trimmed back, and it's not like, you know, there's still an animation that happens, right? You
Yeah.
still have to pull a cord, you have to,
Yes.
and then take off.
Yeah.
But we've trimmed that way back, and we think the community's going to be pretty happy about that.
Oh yeah,
Instant-
you should start seeing a lot of playing us like a stealth Leatherface as, I guess, more of an option or a sort of a meta around that type of style of playing Leatherface. I think it supports that, and I think it also what it generates is for the player base to have the tool set to create jump scares instead of us as developers trying to shoehorn in jump scares which feel cheap and it never really plays out well. It feels more impactful if it's like let the player do the jump scare, and you get that if you're a stealth Leatherface and you get a true insta start. Like that would feel much more impactful.
Yeah. So, on the topic of Leatherface doing things more quickly, we also we've shaved just shy of 2 seconds off of the time it takes Leatherface to destroy a barricade in the basement.
Yeah.
I know this one's a big deal. A lot of people talk about it. You know, it feels like it slows him down so much to destroy them that, you know, a lot of Leatherfaces who kind of like know the basement better, for example, just keep moving. They're not really doing too much of that. They kind of get around them other means. So the Leatherface destruction of the barricade has been cut back significantly. Our in-house Leatherface expert, Raj, was kind of, we heard a lot of, whoa, oh, okay, when he was playing. So I thought that was pretty notable and pretty fun. Blood trails.
Oh yeah.
The blood trails. Blood trails are a thing that, you know, we wanted to, it's a tricky one to talk about because when we were seeing the comparison between the PC and console, if you guys remember a bit back, we had to mesh those up. They were out of whack. And there was actually the situation on PC was
I get the two. I don't remember which one was.
the situation with the bigger blood trail. I
Yes,
think it was
yes.
PC. It was duplicating the blood.
Yeah.
And so it was getting like really ridiculous. Or no, it might have been the other way around. It was on console. Anyway. Yeah, it was console that had the bigger blood trail, I think. It was duplicating the amount of blood like relentlessly. So you just keep getting more and more, and the blood would get thicker and wider, and these huge blood tracks would be laid out. We kind of like the idea of that because, I mean, you're slashing at these people with razor blades and things. But also, you know, it wouldn't be the correct way to do this where we just allowed essentially a bug to be a feature.
Right.
Where we're like, you know, a duplicating decal that we don't know why it's duplicating, you know, can't just run with that as the plan.
Right.
So when we aligned the you know, console and PC versions of the blood trails, we were kind of left feeling like, but it was kind of nice seeing more, not necessarily that extent more, but more. So we've added some blood to the blood trails. They're going to be bigger, but they're going to be somewhat in between where the duplicated, messed up version of them were and where the PC version was. So
It looks better, in my opinion.
yeah, and you know, it also kind of makes certain perks kind of seem more believable. You know, there's perks that deal like a little bit of extra damage and all of that, and you know, there's things you can do to slow down bleeding and you know, so on and so forth, and all of that becomes more important in my mind when the blood trail's thicker and easier to track. So hopefully that brings some emergent gameplay. But either way, it should also help families stay on those victim heels a bit. Let's see here. Let's get to minimal one. This one is minimal to talk about. There's not really a lot to say on it, but heavy impact to some players that are in the chat right now that I'm sure want to know. Brazilian Portuguese and Russian translations coming to the game. They're in this patch. They're coming in quality of life too. I know that's been asked about a lot, and I know that as soon as we say Brazilian Portuguese and Russian are coming, there's going to be, you know, some other language that we've missed or something that we, you know, people are looking for next. By all means, continue talking to us about that.
For sure.
Honestly, that's how this ended up.
That is. I mean,
you
those are the two requests we got the most from the player base was, can you support these two languages? And so we hit those first. But yeah, that doesn't mean we're done supporting any other languages that are out there. A lot of that comes from what are people looking for, and we also are monitoring like the markets of what regions do we sell the game the most, or do we see the most active player base in, and those kind of things, which help us to move towards where should we localize next. So, but what trumps all of that is hearing directly from the players in those regions that need that support.
No, it just means I might read the same patch line twice. Poison Claws on Nancy.
Mm-hmm.
Poison Claws. Right now, there's a bug happening. Poison Claws is duplicating, or, well, stacking in a way that it shouldn't. And the, Poison Claws numbers, I believe, were a little bit off as well. Poison Claws should be doing 2, 5, and 8 in the perk description, and it wasn't. Now it's definitely doing 2, 5, and 8, and it's not stacking anymore, so you're going to see a lot of...
Hey, you got a new pin.
It's raining pens. So you should see Poison Claws acting like as described, which is going to actually be a nerf to Poison Claws. I hate using that term, but there's a lot of people calling for it right now. But it's important to kind of delineate there.
Yeah.
We're not changing how Poison Claws operates. There's a bug existing with Poison Claws. We fixed the bug, and now it should be not stacking and doing, 30 seconds and what it was. So the stack on Poison Claws was getting out of hand. So that's out of the way. There's a couple of perks I want to talk about.
Yeah, let's go.
These perks are not the only perks that we're touching in this patch. There's a couple more. These perks, though, I feel are some of the ones that are kind of meta, and they're kind of high profile. And I think that people are going to be interested in these changes. And so we wanted to mention them here. But these 4, here, just to give you an idea: Choose Flight, Bomb Squad, Easily Tuckered Out, and Confusing Mechanic. These 4, I think, are going to be important.
Top bill for what we're hearing in the community right now, that this needs some love. This needs to be looked at. Someone please adjust this.
Let's work backward.
Let's do it.
Confusing Mechanic now works on the fuse and valve. Confusing Mechanic, for those of you who might not be...
Very helpful, actually.
Yeah, for those of you who might not know, Confusing Mechanic adds some time delay and difficulty to turning the device you've turned off back on, right? So it's kind of like Saboteur, but for family. It used to be working only on battery and generator, the car battery and the generator. And the idea being that in the beginning of the match, if somebody with Confusing Mechanic was the one who turned on the generator, it would be that much more difficult for the victims to turn it off. Well, we've had changed the start state for the battery and generator. So then Confusing Mechanic became so situational because it relied on the victims turning off one of those devices and then you being the one person to turn it back on, right? Yep. But Fuse and Valve have now become, obviously, as things go, the Fuse became a popular exit for a long, long time. The Valve definitely did. Now the Valve is seeing less usage, kind of more in the special escape kind of category that we originally had intended it to be. But you see the Valve and Fuse used more, and we felt like Confusing Mechanic made sense to apply to those as well. So if the family member has Confusing Mechanic on and tampers with the Fuse and Valve, it's going to create a more difficult restart for the victims. Well, that was a pretty cool change to it. Easily Tuckered Out. We dropped down the percentage values for this one. Easily Tuckered Out now is going to do 10, 25, and 40%. And basically, this is a stepping down of the power of Easily Tuckered Out. I know that this might not sound like as big of a swing as some people might have wanted us to take, but it's also the kind of thing that, we can continue to keep an eye on and tweak and adjust.
Smart to do smaller incremental changes to things like this, because you move that needle too far, you can break things and stuff starts to feel way out of balance. So it's smarter to do some sort of smaller adjustments, start moving that towards the space where we think it needs to be. And then obviously listen to you guys and you come back and say, feels good or still needs more love.
Yeah.
That's when we can get back in and start continuing to make those little tiny course corrections.
For sure. Choose Flight is a big change. Choose Flight, I would say, is an overhaul of the perk. Basically, Choose Flight was giving you run out of stamina, you get a charge that would drive you back up to 100% stamina, and you're getting 3 charges at level 3.
Yeah, it's a lot.
That's 300% stamina on top of the 100% you start the game, you have at the moment, We are scrapping the charges on Choose Flight. We think it should be a moment of kind of adrenaline reboost kind of thing, right? Where you've stammed out but you need just that little bit more. So we like the functionality of that, but the charge system was not really working here. So now level 1 Choose Flight, which means you've just got it unlocked and just equipped it, you get 1 replenishment of your stamina. So in other words, your stamina depletes, you'll get effectively one charge of stamina regained, but it'll only be 50% of your total stamina. Level 2 for Choose Flight is going to be 75% of your total stamina. And level 3 is 100% of your total stamina. But again, keep in mind, you can get it once per match.
Right.
So the idea with choose flight is you should be watching your stamina bar now and knowing, well, I don't want to push myself to the point of empty and trigger that choose flight to kick in unless I really have to, because you're getting one of those 100% per match. Bomb Squad is the next big one that we changed. And this, we did the opposite. We went the charge route with Bomb Squad. Previously, Bomb Squad would help you, first off, you can disable a hitchhiker trap with no bone scrap. You could do it faster. You could do it, all these different things. Now Bomb Squad will work off of charges again. The idea being you equip Bomb Squad, you can, at level 1, disable 1 trap. At level 2, you can disable 2 traps. And at level 3, you can disable 3 traps. Now, those can be the same trap 3 times. So if the hitchhiker is resetting that trap and you keep going back to it, or it's in a traffic area and you have to hit it, it can be the same trap 3 times or 3 different traps. In the future, if there's other types of traps, it would work there too. Mm-hmm. We'll talk about all those things. We'll cross all those bridges when we get to them. But the point being, now you get 3 shots with Bomb Squad, and that's that. So you can't just kind of basically continuously, reset and all of that. So those are our perk changes. I have like dry mouth. I feel like I'm going a mile a minute. Don't forget, we are going to get to questions at the end of this. The next thing, the big daddy that we got to talk about here that everybody's wondering about, and that I do have to go to the laptop for because it's just honestly
pages, right?
There's some. I'm going to try to trim this out, right? But I'm looking at a page of info on Danny.
I see it.
Instant study with Danny. This is an important one. Danny, instant study. You could, level Danny up to a point where then you could instant study something and tamper with the same thing that you studied. Now, instant study will disable the ability to tamper fuse box, car battery, valve, tank, or generator if you use it on those. Instant studying for other objects than the aforementioned is unchanged. So in other words, if you instant study the generator and then you go to tamper it, you won't be able to.
Okay.
You've burned your opportunity by using instant study on it. You can study other things, get that up, and then tamper the generator.
Yep.
But if you choose to study the generator, you will not get to use your tamper ability on the generator. Basically, it stops you from being able to go up, instant study the exit item like the battery, then tamper it, and then go straight out that door. Right? Basically, ensured that this only applies to players with the instant study upgrade. Again, this isn't for all studying. You can study it and tamper with it. It's only that instant study that you get through his metagame system, right? We've also made it so that Danny no longer has to inspect an exit object before he can tamper it. And we'll see prompts for both tamper or instant study. Prompts displayed as long as the tamper conditions are met. So, basically, oh my gosh. Bro, somebody loves me today. I'm getting pens and water and cheers, everybody.
It's because you're sick, People feeling some kind of way.
As soon as I'm healthy, everybody will go back to flipping me off.
But don't set it here because I'll end up going boop.
Oh, right on.
Keep it down there.
So, let me read that one back to you guys, because again, this stuff starts to get a little in the weeds. We've made it so that Danny no longer has to inspect an exit object before he can tamper it, and we'll see prompts for both. So if you walk up, you don't have to kind of inspect it. You can see the prompt and just, prompts are displayed as long as the tamper conditions are met. So fuse box is open and has a fuse in it, or the valve handle is already attached. That lets the player make the choice at that moment what to do. Tamper, instant study, gain the knowledge, and kind of, if you have instant study on, devoid the item, blah, blah. Input for the tamper interaction changed to a secondary input. It allows to show tamper and instant study at the same time.
Right.
So you don't have that one button press.
Yeah, right.
Button prompts for the 4 exit interactions, the generator, battery, fuse box, and valve tank, have been updated so that the players are told that instant study will disable the tampering in that match. So in other words, it surfaces it to you and basically the next big thing is knowledge gain values have been rebalanced so that they are more even across objects, but still have different values. So what does that mean? They were much closer together on the different objects. For instance, if you studied a lamp versus studying a TV or an exit, the margin between them was a lot closer. So you're getting a lot more knowledge gained from each one of those studies. We've now kind of spread them out a bit and rebalanced them across all of the objects. And the objects from lowest to highest values for knowledge gained is lamps, then toolboxes, then collection points for fuse or valve handles, radios, then TVs, and then the exits. So, again, that's something that we're going to need you guys to play, feel, and come back to us on, because we can continue tinkering with those values. TV should give more or less or whatever the case is, but we've adjusted those to make it a little, to slow Danny down a bit, I guess would be the best way to put it. We also had an animation issue with Danny that we've repaired. Basically, when he would go up to tamper something, he could break from the animation before the full minigame.
Oh, right.
And it looked like an instant tamper, like he just hit the button and took off. You'll now have to complete that little UI minigame, for lack of a better term. The animation has to fully play regardless of the parameters before you can move on from there.
Makes sense.
So there's no more walking past and just,
Right,
and then it
right.
goes and you're gone. We also reduced the amount inspect speed is reduced at level 1 and 2 to 20 and 50% on the inspection kind of bonus in his metagame. So that's a lot to say. That's a lot to do. I don't want this to sound like a cop-out, but I feel like these changes you're going to have to see them and experience them.
It's important to note that everything we're about to say, you will be able to experience in 90 days or less. So yeah, if you know how to do math and can read a calendar, you kind of got a basic idea of the time frame that you're going to be able to experience these things. So right off the rip, what's the first thing to discuss?
Execution packs.
And that's plural, execution packs, more than one. So you'll see new ways to execute victims, and they're pretty brutal. I've seen the footage, and they're pretty good. We turned it up a little bit more for this. We heard from players that they wanted more of that. I think some of the ones at launch were, I wouldn't use the term tame, but they weren't like over the top, and I would say we're moving that needle a little more towards brutal. We really just kind of let Ronnie off the hook and was like, let's get a little more dangerous in here.
I got a funny story about that. We were on the mocap volume, and I heard Ronnie giving direction to the actor who plays Johnny.
Yeah.
Dove is his name. Dove's a great guy.
Yeah.
So Ronnie's giving direction, and Dove kept kind of looking at him quizzically, quizzically. And I got a little closer so I could hear. And Ronnie's just explaining this, which I won't elaborate on because, we want to keep it a surprise.
Spoil it, right?
Yeah. But he's explaining this absolutely brutal kill, and Dove's like, "We can do that." We're like, "That's it." And Ronnie's like, "We're gonna, we're gonna do it. We're gonna see how it goes."
Right.
So I think we pushed the need. I think Ronnie really, particularly, pushed the needle to a place that's going to surprise you guys, and then some. So I'm excited about the execution packs.
Yep.
Weapon skins is another one.
Yeah. So ways that you can, sort of cause using cosmetics or whatnot, change some of the weapons that all the family members carry. You'll see that coming in the next 90 days or so. I think it's really cool because it gives some uniqueness to some of the weapons that you're already sort of accustomed to seeing. While some of them may be smaller and sort of in hand, they still can be seen, and they still, I think, in my opinion, look pretty cool. So, stay tuned to socials for some up close images of those in the weeks that follow.
Now, there's one more here that there's an angle to this next one because we have cosmetics for the family and for the victims.
Correct. Yeah.
But there's a bit of process in there that I think you and I had talked about a little bit.
Oh, is there? Go ahead.
I mean, the idea with cosmetics and how we're going about making them and how we're pulling in, some talented folks to help us put together these cosmetics.
Yeah.
I'm going to let you actually speak more.
Oh, it's just, we're working with a studio named Art Bully, who we've worked with in the past. We worked with them on Friday 13th. They made a lot of our Jasons. They're just a very talented studio. They've since grown substantially larger since when we worked with them on Friday. So shout out to Marcus and the team at Art Bully. But they've come in full force and have been helping us create all new outfits for everyone in the game. I think you guys are going to be excited to see what's coming, and they're moving fast, and there's going to be a lot of them. So be on the lookout for new goodies for both sides again in the next 90 days or less.
Yeah. Now, next up. Oh, this is a big one. Remember when we said free maps, etc.?
Yeah.
Everybody clowned on us.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
I missed the clowning part.
Well,
I'm not surprised though.
Listen,
I get clowned on a lot. So
we struggled with the etc. because we weren't really sure how to illustrate.
They didn't
this.
like etc.
No, they were like, "What does that mean?" You know.
Okay.
Of course, maps are free, and we were like, "Yeah, but there's." At the time, we knew about this next item, but we could not speak on it.
Yeah.
And so we went back and forth on, do we even say there's anything more for free? We want to let you guys know there was more coming that would be free.
Yeah.
But we also didn't really know how to say it, so we said etc. And we got rightfully kind of joked around with a little bit. Museum mode.
Museum mode, yeah. So that's a new mode that's coming in the next 90 days. In this mode, it'll allow you to move around the family house. If you played the virtual cabin in Friday the 13th, then you kind of get what we're going for. It does have some sort of mild puzzles and things, but it's also some like behind the scenes of both the game and the film. There's some photo op areas where you can like actually use a camera and take pictures and have those saved, and you can share those out or do whatever. And then like some trivia and some information about, again, sort of behind the scenes things from the film, as well as behind the scenes things that we all experienced when we were making the game. So if you are into that type of content where you're able to, instead of putting on like your Blu-ray or DVD or whatever and watching the behind the scenes like that statically, it's like that, but you get to walk through it and be sort of a part of it. And then there's some things to sort of some puzzles to sort of solve and move through to unlock and see more and have more unique, interesting experiences. And so that'll be coming in the next 90 days. It's a free mode in Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Within, I want to specify something some folks from chat are struggling with, and I realize it's the way we're saying it. In 90 days, we don't mean that in 90 days from now we're going to have a DLC drop that's just everything.
Yeah.
Within the next 90 days.
Correct.
These things are spread throughout.
Right.
You know, I think that, do we know our shortest time frame before we get to the first thing? I don't think.
Well, I know there's nothing that's going to happen before the quality of life.
Quality of life, February 6th, then would be our first moment of this.
And then everything past that, that sort of time window is you're going to start seeing like a cadence of things dropping that we're talking about on this list.
Now, I wanted to note to you guys, obviously things like some cosmetics, maybe execution packs, weapon packs, those things are going to be spread throughout the course of the next 90 days. One thing that's important to note, which is also our next thing to talk about, we have a new victim and a new family member coming.
Oh, shit.
New victim and a new family member. Now, before we even start talking about this, I'm going to pass the mic to Wes, but before we even start talking about this, I need you guys to understand now, beforehand, these guys are going to be closer to that 90-day mark.
Yeah.
So whereas we talked about like some execution packs, some weapon skins, some cosmetics and things, and those will be throughout, obviously anywhere in between February 6th with quality of life and forward for within this 90-day window. The new family member and the new victim, that's going to be closer toward that, right around that 90-day mark.
There's a new look, a new outfit that we're making for Sissy, and it's known as Bride Sissy. So it'll be Sissy in a wedding gown, in a very twisted. You'll see. We'll be revealing some images of that pretty soon. So again, stay tuned to us. But there was something about that really drew in. I think Ronnie was really fascinated with that juxtaposition of this weird, twisted person donning the look of being in love, but yet maybe has never really tasted it, and this idea of evil and what seems like wearing something that felt more angelic because of the white in the wedding dress and that kind of thing. So yeah, you'll be seeing Bride Sissy coming, and it's free. So that'd be one that's I think you guys would be excited about, but probably more excited for the next thing that we actually have an image of. Matt, do you want to set this up before we throw to this image? So give Rob some time to get the image ready to get queued.
Yeah, woohoo! It's another. Actually, this is another etc. This is another free, and I think that's pretty cool because I think the community's gonna be really psyched about topless Johnny. I mean, shirtless Johnny.
Shirtless Johnny. So here's a look at Shirtless Johnny. Again, this will be free. One thing that we are also talking about is like if there's future ways that you could maybe change a few things about like the shirt that's hanging out of his pocket, or we're having some discussions like that to like, can we do something else that's cool with that? But for right now, that hair is not final. This is like as we're putting things together on this model, and because obviously if you Johnny without a shirt on in the normal, there's no texture like that, and so we had to make all exactly the way we wanted him. And this is something that Ronnie has been working very hard on. Ronnie studies sort of the human physique a lot, and he wanted Johnny to have a look to him that was very intimidating. And that doesn't always just mean like massively huge, like beefcake guy. So there's a balance between like having the strength of someone who works on a farm versus a strength of someone who goes to a gym. And Johnny's not necessarily a person that goes to the gym. So he still needed to look the part and look like he could really handle himself. And I think Ronnie's done a fantastic job of giving the art direction to the 3D modelers to get Johnny in a place that we knew we always wanted him. Actually, this is just an interesting side note in that when Ronnie originally, like over a year ago, was writing up what this character, actually it's more like 2 years ago, I think, when he was writing up the bio of like Johnny, he had him without a shirt. And when we were talking about through those things, we're like, well, but customization options and things like, let's put him on a shirt, put a shirt on him and see what he looks like. And then we had him with a shirt and we're like, okay, we'll stick with that. But the original like written bio of him was he was going to look like this. So it was nice for Ronnie to be able to go back to old notes. And it was nice to know that the community was also interested in seeing a killer that, didn't have a shirt on, which kind of makes sense in Texas. It's hot and, he's doing a lot of manual labor. And so it's not a stretch to think that he would be that way. And again, the original bio that was written on him had him like this. So that's going to be coming to Texas Chainsaw Massacre in the next 90 days or less, and it is free. What's next on the docket?
We got one more.
One more thing, huh?
And I think that means that we got to talk about the map.
Oh, there's a map. There's a new map.
Whoa, Rob
ladies
was
and
just
gentlemen,
like, boom, right
jumping
into it.
right into the mill.
This is this is a screenshot. Basically still in development. Visuals not final.
Yeah, very much still in. We haven't done our beauty pass and things like that yet on this, but the reason why we wanted to show you this is just to give you an idea of how different this is compared to every other map we have in the game. This game has far more verticality than you've experienced yet in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. There's actually 4 playable levels of verticality in this, from basement, mid-floor, second floor, third floor, and then you also have a dry creek bed that once you get down in that, like the depth of that versus the height of this, of the tippy top playable space, is pretty significant. It's nothing like you've played so far, which creates some unique gameplay that we haven't seen either, where getting trapped into that mill and moving vertically instead of horizontally throughout the game space, it does create some unique gameplay that we haven't seen yet. And I think we saw a tiny taste of that with Nancy's house, with it having a bit more verticality in that it was almost like that was the testing ground for the idea of, does the Texas Chainsaw Massacre design work when you start moving up instead of out? Yeah. And that little test with Nancy's house said, yes, it absolutely works, and it works really well. So now let's turn the volume on that and give players a map that has far more verticality in it. I mean, Matt, you've spent some time kicking the tires on this map. Do you have something you want to add to that?
One of the things I wanted to bring up, I think it was interesting how you brought up Nancy's house, because Nancy's house has the verticality not only of the ramped driveway,
Right.
which you can see in elements of this map in
Yes.
the dry bed in the back, right?
Mm-hmm.
But also the ladders and the porches in the back of Nancy's house, which you can see, you end up seeing here, because there's, you know, catwalks and things like that that connect different areas, but you know, you have those lower sections. So being a cook player and being up a bit and being able to, or really any family member being up a bit and being able
line
to,
of sight is different with this.
Right,
than,
right.
Mm-hmm.
That line of sight works vertically versus having to count on long distances. So it definitely changes the way you play. It changes the way you evade the family, and it changes the way you hunt on the family side.
Yeah.
It's also just a really cool map.
Yeah, and it also, like, there's some interesting more points of interest, I think, on this for in terms of unique assets that you'll find in the map that make for callouts much more efficiently than you might have on, say, like Slaughterhouse, for example. It's a little harder to do callouts on that. That you'll find this to be a little bit more. It's a little easier to be able to say, hey, he's over by the this or they're over by the that, because you have far more points of interest on that. Another thing to point out is this is an abandoned sawmill. So when we say mill, we're talking about a sawmill, like where logging work would take place. But it's abandoned, which is why it's all, you know, in bad shape and disrepair, and you can see the gaps in that building, in the woodwork is rotting and sort of falling away. It creates unique lighting inside that building, which we will be in the near future be putting out images of what it looks like inside as well. So be on the lookout for that. But the point here was just to show you guys a quick screenshot to see that we're moving up, not out, when it comes to like the direction of unique gameplay. Instead of just doing a rinse repeat of a similar map or making it feel like you're playing in the same arena every single time, you were just moving exits or something. We don't ever do that. We always take this as everything needs to look and feel unique when you set and play it. And that's from character design to level design, which again reinforces the thing I've been talking about, is this stuff takes time. I'm not going to rush to put something out that feels, again, very mayonnaise. It's not, I don't ever want to do that, because what's the point of that? I would rather put out things that when you touch it and play it, you're like, holy shit, this feels different. That's always our goal.
And, you know, on that note, while we do have time left to get mill ready, you know, obviously there's still a lot of work to be done.
Yeah.
There are some elements of it that I want to note. There's some interesting well usage.
Oh.
And I'm not going to go any further than that, because I want to leave some surprises, but there's some really cool well usage.
Yeah.
And we're finding that through the verticality, because we have those multiple floors to play with. And window jumping. We know everybody's a big fan of window jumping. There's some interesting window jumping too.
Indeed.
There's also a whole section of the map that I think is going to be fans are really going to love. And again, it's going to change. We're going to see some of those changes, and hopefully now, you know, this being the first like cork out of the bottle moment. Hopefully now, you know, maybe the next time you see the mill, it'll be a slightly more detailed teaser of it.
Yeah.
You know, but again, we're still working through those bits. We're letting it marinate the right way, and we're confident in what you guys will get out the other side. And the mill, of course, like all of the maps in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, will be free.
I appreciate y'all watching to the end of the video. Subscribe to the channel. Check out my next video that's popping up right now.